All right, time to get those brain cells working, because today we're diving deep into a story that's got everyone in the defense world talking.
Yeah, this one's a big one.
We're talking fighter jets, big power moves, and a whole lot of geopolitical intrigue, all centered around Saudi Arabia's interest in Turkey's brand new KAAN fighter jet.
Definitely one of those stories you got to watch closely.
Absolutely. And luckily, we've got a ton of defense analysis and some seriously interesting news reports to help us break it all down. So, shall we jump right in?
Let's do it.
You know, what's really got my attention is how this whole deal really shows how things are changing in the Middle East. Countries want more control over their own defense,
Yeah.
They're moving away from the old partnerships.
Yeah, it's not just about grabbing the shiniest new jet. It's about what that purchase really means. Big picture stuff.
Totally. So let's start with the KAAN itself. What are we even talking about here? How impressive is this Turkish jet?
Okay, so imagine a fighter jet that's built to go up against the very best, like even US F-35. That's Turkey's goal with the KAAN. We're talking stealth tech. It's designed to vanish from enemy radar. Then you've got the EION radar system.
ESA radar?
Yeah, it stands for Active Electronically Scanned Array. But let's just say it gives the KAAN crazy good vision. Like, it can see everything. It tracks multiple targets, even from far away. And it blows older radar systems out of the water.
Okay, stealthy and super-sighted. Sounds like a pretty dangerous combination. And you mentioned Turkey wanting to play with the big guys in the arms market. This jet's about more than just defending their own backyard, isn't it?
100%. For Turkey, the KAAN is a statement. They're flexing their tech muscles, showing they can compete, and trying to grab a piece of a market that's usually dominated by the U.S., Europe, and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
If they pull this off, if they could really become a top arms exporter, it's a huge shift.
Huge. And that brings us to Saudi Arabia. They've got their own reasons for needing to beef up their defenses.
Absolutely. Saudi Arabia's always had a strong air force, but things are getting old. They need to modernize, especially with all the regional tensions. They need to stay ahead of the game. They've been trying to get their hands on some F-35s from the U.S.
Right, but that hasn't exactly gone to plan.
Nope, not easy, and that's where the KAAN comes in.
It's like a little window into how messy international relations can be. Saudi Arabia has been a U.S. ally for a long time, but this interest in the KAAN tells you they're keeping their options open, even if it ruffles some feathers.
They're not putting all their eggs in one basket anymore, that's for sure. They want options, they want partners who can help them reach their goals, and their goals are ambitious, let me tell you.
Let's talk about those goals for a second. This isn't just a shopping spree for some new jets. Saudi Arabia's got Vision 2030, right? So what's the bigger plan?
So Vision 2030 is all about changing up Saudi Arabia's economy.
Yeah.
They don't want to rely on oil so much anymore.
Right.
A big part of that is building up their own defense industry. They don't just want to buy weapons. They want to build them, design them, become a major power in their own right. This potential deal with Turkey, if it actually happens, fits perfectly with that ambition.
Turkey wants to be a global arms dealer. Saudi Arabia wants to build up their own defense. It does seem like a good match on the surface.
And it's not just talk either. We've seen these two countries working together more and more, like that big summit they had back in July 2024. Plus, there's been a lot of chatter about joint defense projects.
Yeah.
And get this, Saudi Arabian military industries, or SAMA, they've actually signed deals with Turkish companies, big ones, like Baykar, the drone guys.
The Baykar guys, those guys are everywhere right now.
They're making waves for sure.
It's not just a thought anymore then, is it? These two are already partners getting ready for bigger things. Speaking of bigger things, what are we talking about with this KAAN deal? How many jets are we talking?
Rumors are saying Saudi Arabia is thinking about buying 100 KAAN jets. That's not just buying jets, that's a serious commitment. Think about the jobs, the tech that'll be shared, the boost for both their defense industries. And it sends a message, that there's a new power dynamic happening, and Turkey and Saudi Arabia are major players.
100 jets. That's,
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's a big deal. No wonder people are paying attention to this. But let's zoom out for a second. Yeah, we talked about what's in it for Turkey, what's in it for Saudi Arabia, but what about the bigger picture here? What does this whole thing tell us about how things are changing in the region?
This is where it gets really interesting. And see, for decades, it's been the U.S. calling the shots in the Middle East, militarily speaking. Countries like Saudi Arabia, they've relied on American weapons, on those security guarantees from the U.S., but this KAAN thing, it throws a wrench in all of that.
Like it's saying the old ways don't matter as much anymore.
Exactly. It tells you Saudi Arabia wants to be less reliant on others. They want different suppliers, more options.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to show it, even if it makes Washington a little uncomfortable.
Because let's be real, someone in the U.S. government's got to be at least a little worried about this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The U.S. has never been a fan of its allies getting cozy with potential rivals. And Turkey, yeah, they're in NATO, but they've been doing their own thing a lot lately. If Turkey and Saudi Arabia make this big arms deal, that's going to be seen as a power shift, no question.
It's like geopolitical chess or something.
Right.
Every move has these huge consequences.
Exactly. And you got to think about how the other countries in the region are going to react too. Places like Iran, Egypt, they've got their own interests there. This deal could set off a whole chain reaction, new alliances, new rivalries, the whole thing.
It's wild how one arms deal can cause so many waves.
Well, that's the thing. It's not just an arms deal, you know? It's a sign of something much bigger. Countries wanting independence, wanting to make their own choices, and technology, especially military tech, that becomes a huge part of how that all plays out.
Okay, so we've got Turkey and Saudi Arabia, their potential benefits from this deal. We've talked about how the U.S. might react and the ripple effects for the whole region. But what about the KAAN itself? We've mentioned what it can do, but for those of us who aren't, fighter jet experts, give us the rundown. What makes this jet so special? Why would Saudi Arabia want to throw down this much money on Turkish tech?
Well, the KAAN, it's designed to be a real game changer when it comes to air combat. You're talking stealth capabilities, that advanced radar tech, plus it's fast, it's maneuverable, it's meant to go up against the best of the best and potentially come out on top.
So we're not talking about just a fancy new toy here. This is some serious hardware.
Oh, absolutely. So let's break it down a little. First, you've got the stealth capabilities. Basically, the KAAN is designed to be invisible, or as close to invisible as you can get, to enemy radar.
Like a ghost plane.
Exactly. And that's crucial in modern warfare. If they can't see you, they can't shoot you. Then you've got the ASA radar, right? That's what we were talking about earlier. This system lets the KAAN spot and track multiple targets at once, even from a long way off, gives the pilot a much clearer picture of what's happening, and they can engage multiple threats at the same time.
So it's not just hiding, it can also bring the fight to them.
Exactly. The KAAN is built to carry all sorts of missiles, air to air, air to ground, so it can handle a lot of different missions, whether that's going head-to-head with enemy jets or providing support to troops on the ground. It's supposed to be a really versatile, lethal weapon.
Okay, so stealthy, advanced radar, fast, maneuverable, armed to the teeth. Yeah, I can see why people are interested in this jet.
And don't forget the symbolic value here. For Saudi Arabia, choosing the KAAN over, say, a European jet or an American jet, that's a big statement. It tells the world they're not afraid to shake things up, to make new partnerships based on what works for them, not just stick with the old alliances.
It's about showing they're independent, that they're ready to be a major player.
Exactly. And for Turkey, well, if this deal goes through, it's a huge win for them too, right? Shows off their skills to the world, opens up new markets for their defense industry. It's a win-win, at least on paper.
But gotta be realistic, there are always hurdles.
Always.
Political stuff, figuring out the technology transfer, the price negotiations. It's a long way from a done deal.
100%. Even if it does happen, no guarantee it'll be smooth sailing after that either.
There are always bumps in the road.
Always. But look, one thing's for sure, this whole KAAN situation, it's a really big deal. It could change everything about how the Middle East, at least in terms of military power, is structured.
It's like we're seeing the global arms market change right in front of us. Turkey's becoming a major player, potentially, and countries like Saudi Arabia, they're looking beyond the usual suspects.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Brings up so many questions, though. Will this deal actually happen? What could stop it? And if it does go through, what will it mean for the region, for the world? Big questions.
Million-dollar questions, really. And unfortunately, we don't have all the answers. But we can look at the facts, connect the dots, and make some educated guesses about what the future holds.
Yeah, right.
One thing to think about is what happens to the U.S. defense industry if this goes through. Saudi Arabia has been a big buyer of American weapons for a long time.
Right.
If they start buying Turkish jets instead, that's going to have an impact, economically speaking.
It's not just about the money, though, is it?
Not even close. It's about influence. It's about who has the power, who are the important partnerships. The U.S. has been the big dog in the Middle East for a long time, but this KAAN deal, it could change that. It tells you countries are looking for other options, ways to be less reliant on the U.S.
And Turkey's ready to step in.
It's a huge opportunity for them. They can get more influence, be a major player on the world stage.
It's like a whole geopolitical dance-off. with countries trying to get in the right position.
That's a good way to put it. It's about protecting your interests, but the world's a complicated place, and it's getting more complicated all the time.
It feels like it.
And like with any dance, there are always risks, you know. This KAAN deal, it's not without its problems. Politics will play a role, that technology transfer, things we can't even predict could happen.
It's a high-stakes game, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And we don't know how it's going to end. But that's what makes it so fascinating. It's history happening right now, right in front of us. And it reminds you that the world's always changing. The old rules, they don't always apply anymore. New partnerships are forming all the time.
So what can our listeners take away from all of this? How do you even make sense of something this complicated?
I'd say stay informed. Don't believe everything you hear.
Yeah.
Look past the headlines, Pay attention to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
How is power shifting? What new technologies are changing the game? What are the motivations of the countries involved?
Because as we've seen today, sometimes one deal, like this KAAN deal, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's a sign of something much bigger happening.
It's about ambition. It's about competition. It's about countries trying to get ahead, become more powerful in a world that never sits still.
And that's never going to change, is it?
Nope, not anytime soon. It's a story that's still being written, and it's one that'll keep surprising us, I'm sure of it.
Well, on that note, and it's been a fascinating dive, wouldn't you say? We should probably leave it there for now.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground today.
But make sure you come back for our next deep dive. We'll be back soon to unpack even more stories shaping our world. Don't miss it.
Join Intel Prime Channel membership today and get access to exclusive benefits, including early access to new videos, exclusive discounts on Intel products, behind-the-scenes content, live chat with me and other members. Other options will be soon available. Thank you for your support and for helping Intel Prime grow.